You start wondering if you're doing something wrong, if there's a secret formula you're missing. Maybe you're not praying hard enough. Maybe you're not using the right words. Maybe your faith isn't strong enough, and that's why God isn't responding. The doubts creep in slowly at first, then flood your mind all at once. You look around and see others celebrating answered prayers. Their testimonies fill your social media feed. Their faces glow as they share how God came through for them, right on time. And you're happy for them. You really are. But deep inside, a painful question forms. What makes you different? Why does God show up for them, but not for you? The voice in your head whispers that maybe you're not worthy of answered prayers. Maybe you've sinned too much. Maybe you've disappointed God one too many times, and now he's distant because of your failures. You replay every mistake, every moment you fell short, wondering if this silence is punishment. Your faith starts feeling like foolishness. You feel like you're talking to yourself, believing in something that might not be real. But here's what's really happening beneath the surface of that silence. Something your rational mind can't grasp yet. Something that would restore your hope if you understood it. What if God isn't ignoring your prayers? What if he's actually protecting you from receiving something you're not ready for? I know that sounds almost impossible to believe when you're in the thick of the silence, but stay with me for a moment. Think about a time you desperately wanted something, and looking back, you're grateful you didn't get it. Maybe it was a relationship that would have destroyed you, a job that would have burned you out, or a door that would have led you down the wrong path. In the moment, the no felt like rejection, but with time and perspective, you saw it was protection. Sometimes the answer is not yet because yes right now would destroy you. Your heart might be ready, but your character, your capacity, your spiritual foundation, they need strengthening first. It's like asking for $1 million when you haven't learned to manage 100. The blessing wouldn't just fail to help you, it would actually harm you. This silence is God's way of upgrading your capacity to receive what you're asking for. He's not withholding because he's cruel. He's recalibrating because he's wise. Think of a surgeon who must create temporary pain to heal a deeper wound, or a potter who must break flawed clay to reshape it into something beautiful and functional. The process feels like abandonment, but it's actually intimate attention. God is working on you precisely because he hasn't forgotten about you. Are you in love with God's blessings or with God himself? It's a hard question, one most of us don't want to answer honestly, but silence has a way of revealing what's really in our hearts. Think about your closest relationships. How do you know someone truly loves you? Not when everything is going well and they're getting what they want from you, but when things get hard, when the benefits dry up, when there's nothing in it for them anymore. That's when real love is tested and proven. God's silence works the same way. It exposes whether your faith is transactional or transformational. Are you showing up in prayer because you need something, or because you genuinely want connection with the divine? Silence forces you to decide. Will you serve God only when he's useful to you? Here is an uncomfortable truth many of us need to hear. What if the prayer you're re-holding onto is the very thing blocking your breakthrough? What if you're re-gripping so tightly to your version of what should happen that you can't receive what God is actually offering? Something deeper, truer, more aligned with who you're becoming. The most powerful prayers aren't always the ones that get answered. They're the ones that transform who you become while you're waiting. This season isn't about getting, it's about becoming. While you see silence, there's a war being waged in realms you cannot see. Your prayers didn't fall on deaf ears. They triggered a response in the spiritual realm that you're completely unaware of. Look at Daniel in the Bible. He prayed for 21 days straight, receiving nothing but silence. No visions, no angels, no breakthroughs, just exhausting, relentless prayer into what felt like a void. But on day 21, an angel finally appeared and said something that changes everything. Your prayer was heard from the first day. The delay wasn't rejection. It was warfare. Spiritual forces were actively resisting the answer that was already on its way. Your enemy doesn't fight battles that don't matter. The intensity of the warfare reveals the magnitude of your breakthrough. The hotter the opposition, the more significant what you're praying for actually is. If your prayers were pointless, there would be no resistance. If your breakthrough didn't threaten the darkness, you wouldn't be experiencing this level of spiritual attack. What if you're one prayer away from a breakthrough you've been fighting for? What if the answer has already been released, but you're giving up right before it arrives? Your persistence isn't pointless. It's literally breaking through enemy lines in the unseen realm. God is more interested in who you're becoming than in making you comfortable. And if that feels harsh right now, I understand. When you're desperate for relief, the last thing you want to hear is that there's a lesson in the waiting. But here, that's the reality. The thing you're repraying for will require a version of you that doesn't exist yet. Think about lottery winners who suddenly have millions, but lose it all within years because they lack the character to manage wealth. Or people who finally get into their dream relationship, only to sabotage it because they haven't healed their own wounds. The blessing didn't fail them. They weren't ready for the blessing. Imagine receiving your prayer answered today. Would it destroy you or develop you? Would you have the wisdom to steward it, the patience to maintain it, the humility to handle it without it corrupting you? This waiting isn't punishment. It's preparation for permanent breakthrough, not temporary relief. God isn't withholding your blessing because he's cruel. He's building the character foundation strong enough to sustain what's coming. He's developing patience so you don't quit when things get hard. Resilience so you can handle future pressure. Wisdom so you make better decisions. Humility so success doesn't destroy you. This silence is his graduate school. What if the reason your prayer isn't being answered is because God has something better, and you're holding on to something lesser? What if you're fighting so hard for plan A that you can't see God trying to give you plan B, the one that actually aligns with your purpose? Think about how a GPS works. When you take a wrong turn, it doesn't lecture you or abandon you. It simply recalculates. It finds a new route to get you where you need to go. God's silence might be his recalculation moment, redirecting you away from a path that looks right, but leads somewhere you are never meant to be. The closed door you rebeating on might be God's mercy protecting you from a trap you can't see. That relationship you're praying for might be toxic in ways you're too close to recognize. That job opportunity might lead to burnout and misery. That move you're desperate to make might disconnect you from your real calling. Sometimes God's no is the kindest thing he could say to you. It doesn't feel kind in the moment. It feels like rejection. But years from now, you'll look back at this unanswered prayer and thank God for his silence. You'll see clearly that what felt like denial was actually divine protection and perfect positioning. What if God is removing your dependence on his gifts so you can discover the gift of his presence? Most of us, if we're honest, have treated God like a cosmic vending machine. We put in our prayers, expect our blessings to drop out, and walk away satisfied. But that's not relationship. That's transaction. God is asking, will you love me when I'm all you have? When the blessings stop flowing? When the miracles pause? When you don't get what you asked for? Will you still show up? Will you still worship? Or does your devotion depend on what you're getting? The most spiritually mature people aren't those who get everything they pray for. They're those who worship even when they don't. They've discovered something most believers never find: sufficiency in God's presence alone. Not his provision, not his answers. Just him. Think about a parent who doesn't give their child everything they ask for. It's not cruelty, it's wisdom. Saying yes to every demand creates entitlement and prevents maturity. God loves you too much to spoil you with blessings that would keep you spiritually shallow. This silence is teaching you a secret most believers never learn. His presence is the answer to every prayer. Not a substitute for what you want, but something infinitely greater. You can't control when God answers, but you can control how you wait. And how you wait matters just as much as what you're waiting for. This isn't about pretending everything is fine or forcing fake positive. It's about building practices that help you process pain faithfully instead of destructively. Start by journaling your prayers. Write them down with dates. Track what you're asking for and how you're feeling. Months from now, you'll look back and see patterns you couldn't recognize in the moment. Shifts in your heart, answers you didn't notice, growth you didn't realize was happening. Surround yourself with faith community. Don't isolate in your silence. Find people who can pray when you're too tired, who can speak truth when doubt overwhelms you, who can remind you of God's character when you're forgetting. Revisit past answered prayers. Every silent season in your past eventually ended. This one will too. Look back at moments when God came through. Let past faithfulness fuel present faith. Practice gratitude intentionally, not to dismiss your pain, but to shift focus from what's missing to what's present. The way you wait reveals what you truly believe about who God is. Train yourself spiritually like an athlete trains physically. Silent seasons are your off-season preparation. The people with the most powerful testimonies had the longest periods of silence. Think about Joseph. 13 years between his dream and his destiny. Most of it spent in prison for a crime he didn't commit. Job lost everything and sat in ashes for months before restoration came. Hannah prayed for years before holding the son she desperately wanted. David was anointed king as a teenager, but spent years running and hiding before he ever wore the crown. What if you're living the middle of a testimony that will inspire thousands? What if this season of silence is setting up the most powerful chapter of your life? You can't see it yet because you're too close to the story, but one day you'll look back and understand why every delay was necessary, why every no was protection, why every moment of silence was preparing you. Your breakthrough might not look like you imagined, but it will be exactly what you needed. Maybe the breakthrough isn't just getting what you prayed for. Maybe it's becoming someone who doesn't need it to be okay. Maybe it's discovering that God's presence is enough. Maybe it's the strength you've built, the faith you've developed, the character you've forged in the fire of waiting. The darker the night, the more glorious the sunrise, and your morning is coming. One day, someone will be exactly where you are now, and your story will be the reason they don't give up. They'll be on their knees in the dark, wondering if God has forgotten them. And your testimony of faithful endurance will be the light that guides them through. This silence is writing a testimony in your life that is more powerful than any answered prayer could be. Anyone can praise God when blessings flow, but you're learning to worship in the waiting, to trust in the darkness, to believe when you can't see. That's the kind of faith that moves mountains and inspires generations. You're not being ignored. You're being authored into something beautiful. God is writing a story through your life that's bigger than your immediate comfort. Every prayer whispered in silence, every tear cried in the dark, every moment you chose faith over fear, it's all building towards something magnificent. So here's your choice. Will you let this silence make you bitter or better? Both are possible. Both are understandable. But only one leads to breakthrough. So keep praying. Keep believing. Keep showing up. Your faith in the silence is louder than any words God could speak right now. And when your breakthrough comes, and it will come, you'll understand why the wait was necessary. You'll have a testimony worth telling.